one thing which I wanted to add, my prerogative as session chair, is that what we're talking about doing is something that I think the fundamentalists actually do very well, which is you have the pastor or the minister who's the professional who promotes the dissemination of information, but then it's expected that every member of the church will go out and evangelize. That's the whole point of being evangelical. And that's encouraged, and that has a huge effect because you have 100,000 people who are all sort of constantly saying to their neighbors, hey, what about this, what about that? And so if we all did a little bit of that, it would actually have a huge effect. Another standard tactic of the evangelical movement is to use guitars to reach out to people. And along those lines, we're very fortunate to have Uri Alon with us today, who's given a lot of thought to the kinds of issues we're discussing, and also about how to employ guitars. So he is on Skype from the Weizmann, and we're glad to have him here. And from Harvard, actually. Okay, and so it's not as far, but it's still far. He's getting the lights all set.
I can't see you.
Can you see anyone?
No, I can't see.
Should we turn this around so we can see the audience? Yeah. Let's see if we get. We're going to try to turn the computer to face the audience.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay.
Oh, you need to click your camera.
I can't see. It just looks like a
I don't see.
black screen.
I don't even see a camera icon. Wait.
It's not in the hand.
Oh, he has to do it.
What do I need to do?
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Oh.
Oh, here we are. Okay. All right. Now we're going to see if we can rotate this to face the audience without pulling all the plugs out.
Oh man, that's bad.
What do you think? We need a lab jacket. Is what we need.
Wow, looks good.
Sweatshirt, just set it on top of the.
But just a little lower, you can just see the tops of their head.
Yeah. Well, we can do that.
Hi, everyone.
Is it working?
Is this UCSF? Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good. Let's start by all together taking a nice deep sigh of relief. I'd like to talk for about 30 minutes, talk, sing, and discuss, and tell you about a movement called Nurturing Scientists that, just like you, wants to make science a better place. But we'll start by trying to attempt, first time ever, singing with you as backup singers across from Skype. All right? So I'm going to sing to you your part. So this is a song about being scooped. It's called Scooped Again. And it's a blues song. And your part will be just the word scoop. It will be scoop, scoop. I'm going to show you. It'll go like this. I've been scooped. I've been scooped again. And then you go scoop, scoop. I've been scooped again. Scoop, scoop. All right? Let's try it. I'm going to try it. And we'll see if you can go scoop, scoop. I've been scooped again.
Scoop, scoop.
I've been scooped again.
Scoop, scoop.
I've been scooped again.
Scoop, scoop.
Scooped again.
Scoop, scoop.
Oh, Mama, can't you hear the pain? Heavens help me, I've been scooped again. Great. Beautiful. I can't believe it, across Skype. All right. I'm in the Libler lab. Check out what's on the slab. I'm running gel after gel. It makes my life a real hell. I'm a receptor wizard. I'm a ligand lizard. Wrote this great new paper. Gonna send it to nature. I went down to the library. This was 1999 and there were still libraries then. Just to check out them journals of February. I've been scooped again.
Scoop, scoop.
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 Oh, Daddy, can't you feel the pain? Heavens help me, I've been scooped again. Every flagella, yeah, I knew it real well. I could talk to the fella, cause I speak Salmonella. Every mini prep got my full attention. Oh, to publish first, that was my intention. I went down to the library, just check out the journals of February. I've been scooped again. I've been scooped again. I've been scooped again. I've been scooped again. Oh, mama, can't you feel the pain? Heavens help me, I've been scooped again. Well, actually, maybe we can turn on the lights in the room. I want to ask you, where does this song meet your life? Feel free to raise your hand. Yeah, let's hear some. For instance, we've been scooped 2 months ago on a paper on negative outer regulation. So, how many people have ever been scooped? 1 or 2. And what's it like? I see someone in the back going like this. What does it feel like?
So actually, I was going to say that I've thought that I've been scooped quite a lot of times, but I've never really been scooped. And so that was my experience of scooping.
Right. It's very rare, but it's also very frightening. And so we can ask, what do we do with the emotions? What happens when we're scooped? Or why is there scooping in science? I'm not going to answer those questions. This is just, something to think about. I know you've been discussing things like that. And I use this song to start. And I'm going to make just a few simple points. The first point is that, as you know, science has a very specific culture. And in this culture, we don't talk about emotional and interpersonal things in conferences, whenever we're taught, etc. And of course, I felt that just like any scientist. For example, 10 years ago, when I started my lab at Weizmann, I walked in, I was desperate to succeed. I walked into the white room, empty room. How many of you can hear me, by the way, properly? Raise your hand. Oh, good. And it was terrifying. The walls kind of closed in on me. I just felt terrified because I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to hire students, how to mentor them, how to choose scientific problems. Never been taught that. I've taught thousands of hours of physics, biology, chemistry, but not 1 hour about the things that really matter, the interpersonal stuff. And I really had a few very desperate years. What really helped me was that I had a parallel career in theater, improvisation theater, aimed at social change, where the premise is to take care of everyone, actors, the audience. And so I could use communication skills I learned there in my lab. For example, when a student came and said, Uri, I need a vacation, a month vacation. It's a desperate project. But I chose on the side of vacation. And when he came back, he was super motivated. His project raced forward. He's making choices in order to benefit and nurture the student, created kind of an atmosphere of great motivation. Or in my lab meeting, instead of just doing science, we socialized, we do birthdays, bring some wine, cake. And I tell people when they collaborate, they help each other. Working on each other's projects, it's very different. Holding the same thing.
Okay, Uri, we're going to have to quickly fix the sound because the sound just did something strange. It might be that there's a problem with feedback from your microphone on your computer.
Hear me now? Yeah. Where did I stop? What was the part you heard?
Vacation.
Group meeting?
1 month vacation.
Vacation. So vacation, I said, by going with what's best for the students, you end up, of course, empowering them to be more motivated. So a lot of advisors tell me, this graduate student isn't motivated, and I say, what are you doing to make them lose their intrinsic motivation? The idea is to nurture people's motivation, which means their autonomy, their competence, and their social connectedness. So I know from experience that since the beginning, good human relations and communication skills is essential for the science we do. And our lab spiraled and positive kind of cycle. And now, after 10 years, the research we did is considered like the foundation of this new field, systems biology. And there's a lot of wonder at how a lab can do that in Israel. But it's basically fundamentally letting people follow their internal voice and the projects they choose, and good human relations. So in my opinion, it's part of science. Now, why wasn't I taught about that? Why doesn't everybody know that? It's not a secret. Other disciplines study communication skills, study motivation in psychology, education, social work, nursing. It's the bread and butter. But in science, we ignore that kind of knowledge, and it's actually very interesting why. There's a reason why sociologists like Evelyn Fox Keller figured it out. It's called the mythology of science. Our scientific culture, has a mythology that scientists are objective and rational, like the knowledge we want to get. But when you call somebody objective and rational, you automatically discount the subjective and emotional. It's not science. And even it's threatening to science. But we know as scientists that it's a whole human being doing science. Rational, objective, and also subjective and emotional. Aspects of subjective and emotional. How to choose a problem is subjective. It relies on your own idiosyncratic worldview. How to mentor, how to give a talk, how to choose a lab, how to stay motivated, how to balance. All these things are critical for science, and they're subjective and emotional. So our culture, because of the mythology of objectivity, doesn't teach it. Emotions are perceived as threatening, and we all suffer. All the symptoms that we're talking about, the review process, the needless aggression, the way science is evaluated, is becoming more a profit-making exercise than a curiosity-driven thing. All are symptoms of the fact that we're isolated from each other because we don't talk about what science can be. That's a subjective and interpersonal thing. So science has a culture, and I'm just going to use one more metaphor. When we buy a microscope, we read the manual and make sure we have all the conditions to make it work right. The optical table, the lenses, the filter set. When we have a new person in the lab, what do we know about how to make the conditions that enable that person to reach their full potential as a scientist? That's what we should teach ourselves. So science has a culture, and it's pretty dismal right now. But there's hopeful prospects because culture can be changed. Not the human being is very difficult to change, but cultures can be changed. And this happened countless times and is well studied. For example, just as an analogy, consider that 100 years ago, women couldn't vote. And the way people talked about women, like the newspapers said, woman belongs in the kitchen. And everybody agreed. That was the way people spoke. And it took decades of activism. But now, imagine what kind of a weird statement it is to say that women shouldn't vote. Right? There are still people with chauvinistic opinion, but their behavior is modified because of the way people talk. So when you change a culture, you're basically adding a language, a way of speaking. You affect people's behavior. And what I think we're proposing is to add to science, or the premise of this talk is adding into science universally an education about the interpersonal skills of being a scientist would help scientists have a shared language about interpersonal skills, the right to talk about it, and that will change our culture in a way that will affect all of the symptoms we're upset about. So I'm going to do a second song now. Get back to the emotional for a second. Think of the person who first introduced you to science. It could be another graduate student or who did the first experiments with you, who had an answer for every question. I'm thinking of Mike Surratt, who was a postdoc in the lab across when I was a postdoc. And he really helped me survive by being there for me and other people too. And this is a song about him. It's Leonard Cohen music. Mike takes you down, up late by the centrifuges. It's your first day in the lab, and you don't know what a centrifuge is, then you can't precious flags, then you drop them, and they shatter, and you look at him quite meekly, but he says it doesn't matter, they were only the control. Gives you of his buffer, and he gives you of his strain, then you wish you had his genome. Or at least you had his brain. I came to him one morning, an idea had been forming. My transformants weren't transforming, and my formers were not forming. I said, Mike, I'm a failure. I'm gonna work at Lord and Taylor. I think I'm quitting science. But he says, now don't be hasty, you see science, like the food at the cafeteria, it's sometimes nasty, sometimes tasty. And you soothe me so discreetly, and you trust in him completely, and your mind, it has been freed, and you know that somewhere, something will succeed. Now Mike is packing his papers in a folder. There's a knapsack on his shoulder, his pipette in a holder, and as he leaves the floor, the shakers all stop shaking. Columns all run dry, and all the plates stop baking. It'll never be the same. And you know that you must keep him, or at least that you must clone him, and you know that you will miss him, and you know that you will phone him all the time. Mike takes you down. Where does this song touch your life experience? Who will take the mic?
What was the question again?
Where does this song touch your personal experience? Do you relate to this song? Does it remind you of anything? So maybe somebody can come to the mic and just say, just briefly, a sharing thought.
So I'm just going to take the mic and say that, at least for me, and I think for most of us here, it was that first person who helped us do science when we didn't know anything that was the most critical. And for me, it was a guy named Chris McBain, who was a postdoc in the lab where I was an undergrad just for the summer. And what he did was, my first experiment, he said, no, that can't be right. You must have made a mistake. He's Scottish. And he said, I'm so sure you're wrong. I'll buy you a pizza if you're right. And it was the greatest thing because I really then wanted to really prove. Up until then, I was just trying to learn how to do stuff in the lab, but then I really wanted it to be right. And so that was the first introduction to, I guess, the excitement of proving someone else wrong. And that was a great thing.
So these people are actually, these Mike Surratts are actually amazingly crucial again in doing science. They don't have to be the PI, right? They can be someone very low on the hierarchy. But their importance stems from their interpersonal skills a lot of times, the emotions they invest in you. So we said that science has a culture with the mythology of objectivity, and that cultures can be changed And once cultures are changed, they transmit themselves to the next generation. Women are probably going to be able to vote for a long time. I hope so. So what can we do to change the culture of science? And here I want to say that it's much easier than I imagined. And I've been speaking about this for about 2 years now. And there are some things actually happening here at Weizmann and at Harvard Medical School and MIT, which are very encouraging. What's happening is that groups of new PIs getting together and inviting a workshop from Europe that works with scientists and teaches interpersonal communication skills. It's a 2-day workshop. So usually most PIs come very skeptical that emotion. I came to science not to deal with emotions. Emotions in my family is screaming and shouting. I came here not to deal with emotions. But after 2 days of role playing and learning simple concepts, a language basically, they're convinced this is the best possible use of their time. What happens in the first one in Israel is they decide to meet a week later to talk about the things that they've learned. Instead of hearing 15 stories, they only got to hear 2 because the stories were so compelling. And now they meet every week to talk about the emotional things that come up during their work and interpersonal relations. And we duplicated that at Harvard Medical School and at MIT. There's 2 groups like that running now in parallel. You meet them, they're like leaders. They're not like defensive, scared new PIs that we usually know. They're thinking about how to make things better for graduate students, how to organize these workshops for the next generation of new PIs. I'd love it to experiment with the same idea for graduate students and postdocs, where again, the idea is a nucleating kind of workshop that gives you the language, and then groups that meet and develop that. That's definitely one way that's catching on. Also, Molecular Cell, the journal Molecular Cell, is our kind of sponsor. So once a month, there are going to be essays about nurturing, and the first one, How to Choose a Scientific Problem, which just came out, to make texts that can like nucleate, talking about issues, and we need to teach ourselves, form a curriculum so that every scientist knows what an atom is. Every scientist will know what active listening is, which means when somebody comes to you with a problem, instead of giving them advice, listening, identifying their needs, and then trying to see if the deep needs can be satisfied in a way that's mutual both parties. That's like a basic skill in mediation and communication. Should be a basic word that every scientist knows. Is there any question? Because I'm going to finish with the last song soon. So, microphone is standing there, we're waiting for you to come up and ask. Thank you.
All right, so, sorry, it's kind of tilted here, I'm falling. So I've been working in this area for 2 years too, and there's a community of people that are interested in participating with the scientific community to bring those kind of skills. So Patricia Dragovich is with Cisco, and there's a...
I'm very sorry, but I can't understand any of
not
the
a
words.
word?
Speak more slowly.
Okay, sorry. I'm so excited. You actually had me. I've been really emotional, so I will try to speak more slowly, but I'm very excited to see your presentation, and I like the songs too. So, but this is something I feel very strongly about as well, and I've been doing a lot of research in this area for a good amount of time. Marianne Mason at Berkeley has been working in this area for quite a while, and I've been working... Marianne Mason.
Yeah, I wrote
Yeah.
that.
And the only group that I know of that's done it in the U.S. is the Carnegie Initiative on the Doctorate.
Okay.
And almost nobody knows about them, including NSF. NSF did a workshop for...
Carnegie Initiative on the Doctorate?
On the Doctorate, yes. And that's now, it's now done. But the people that were involved, there were 11 chemistry departments, and I think about 5 neuroscience departments. And the participants want to have the work move forward. And And NSF isn't really in the conversation yet. They want a mandate from Congress.
Okay.
So I think that the grassroots effort is actually, I think there is a lot of energy. I mean, this conference is an
Yeah.
indication of that, right?
I think this generation is going to make a change in
Yeah.
the world at large, and
Yeah.
in science in particular.
Totally.
And I know about several parallel efforts that are coming together at the same time, and it's very important to empower each other. Just like
Yes,
you.
yeah.
Beautiful comment. Thank you so much for telling me.
Yeah, thank you.
Now look up at Miriam Mason and the Carnegie Initiative.
Yes, yeah.
If you have the ability to email me those things,
I
link.
will. Yeah, we'll
Very
be in
good.
touch.
What's your name?
Kennan.
Say again?
Kennan.
Helen.
Kennan. Kennan. Kennan.
Okay, I'm not.
It's an unusual name, I know.
Where do you work?
I've been with Berkeley most recently. So,
Okay, good.
yeah.
So yeah, I look forward. If you can email me, I'd be thrilled.
Fabulous. All right, I will.
Thank you. Any other comment or question? Don't be afraid. This is the time. Get up and talk.
So,
Thank you.
Uri, I have a question. I think it's really great that a lot of places are starting these new movements, but I feel that there are a lot of environments out there that are still sort of very much sort of run by the old guard, which are really not as interested in really the emotional side of students' development, or of even of creating a department or a departmental environment that's very even nurturing of new PIs, for example. So how would you sort of encourage those people who are going to be going to a new place as a postdoc or as a new PI to be able to sort of create change or nucleate change in their new environment, which might be very different from sort of very supportive environments like UCSF and Weizmann, for example.
Thank you. So of course the question is, the vision of a nurturing science is very different from the reality in many places. And when you come to a new place, you're in a culture that could be quite harsh. And what can you do? So my view is, first of all, is that a vision is important to move us towards the future, and that you guys here in 25 years will be the old guard. So the process of changing systems in science will be a process of in a generation, and the most effective way to start is with us. When I give talks at every time I give a talk in a conference, I also give a nurturing talk, and I talk to the new PI, the postdoc, the graduate student. That's the audience. What you can do is actually very powerful. You can organize your peers, postdocs, let's say, bring a workshop on interpersonal relations. For instance, HFP consulting, the ones we use, is wonderful. For a 2-day workshop to nucleate a core group to have the same language, and then meet to develop ways that you can, first of all, find out that you're not alone. You have the same world. If you're isolated, it's very difficult. If you're together with a group that shares similar experiences, it can transform your postdoc from misery to something where you grow from your hardship. By the way, the difference between hardship and suffering is hardship without meaning. If your hardship has meaning, like for example, we're going to learn what to improve and do different, then it's not suffering, it has meaning. And so this group can transform the vagaries of the current culture into something where you know how you're going to change when you're a PI, or empowering each other. So what I say to postdocs, for example, is weapons of the week. The most important one is take care of yourself, which means find out what is the thing outside of science that you love to do. It could be something like dancing, singing, theater, could be sports, nature, being with a family, friends, reading, and increase that in your life. Because otherwise your whole life shrinks to just research, and then it becomes life and death, and then it's a cycle that goes down. So weapons of the week: strengthen your well of creativity by doing what you love to do outside of science. It's like a paradox. The more you do that, the better a scientist you are. And the other weapon of the week is keep an open channel of communication with your boss. Despite everything, if they're talking to you like a parent to a child, talk back to them like adult to adult. Despite everything, work to keep the communication channel open. And so those two things are crucial. But the work of peers is what's really empowering. So that's what you can do. Did I answer the question? Give a thread.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, one thing I'd like to do before I leave here my sabbatical, which is in the spring, to make a conference of nurturing scientists here in Harvard, bring together these three groups, and maybe some of you, in order, again, it's being around people who have the same point of view. That's the key. And consider yourself agents of change, and find your other agents of change, and do it. Along the lines we already know that work. Listen, I'm gonna close with the last song. Sunday at the Lab that I like to do. I kissed my wife and kids farewell. I must go back to run my gel. I'm gonna spend another Sunday at the lab. My wife said, Uri, you gotta promise you love me more than doing science. I said, honey, can we discuss this another day? I must go and resuspend myself down at the lab. My mom said, son, don't waste your life. Go home and spend time with the wife. You must have learned this from your father. Why can't you be more like your brother? No son of mine spent Sundays at the lab. My dad said, son, you need a shrink. The shrink said, son, you need a drink. Those Rorschach spots reminded me of Bloss. He said, oh God, you obviously have an obsessive compulsion to spend all your Sundays at the lab. My wife, she left me. My mom is owned. The shrink pretends he doesn't know that I can't be myself without some paper on the shelf. So if you need me, you can phone me at the lab. I'm gonna spend another Sunday. I'm gonna spend another Sunday. I'm gonna spend another Sunday at the lab. Question, and I hope we can all together change science in a generation's time to make it reflect our values. Most scientists of our generation are actually with us.